Welcome back to a special Turf Talk Hall of Fame Finalist Edition. Vance Racing Hall of Fame finalists are out. This is the group that we'll vote on with the top 4 getting in. Now we'll get to our personal ballots once those are out and we actually fill them out. My question for you though is, A, what do you think of the 10? And handicapping the electorate, who do you think gets in?
Of the 10, I think nearly all of them is a fantastic Hall of Fame group. We haven't seen this quality in a number of years. And as far as who's going to get in, I think the heavy favorites obviously are Zenyatta, the 3-time champion holder, Mayor Horse of the Year, nearly undefeated before going down to a narrow loss in the Classic in 2010. Rachel Alexandra, the 3-year-old filly of 2009 Horse of the Year, first time a filly had won a Preakness in over 85 years. She's a shoe-in, I think. And Steve Asmussen gets in after some controversy in the last couple of years where his name was not on the ballot. I think he'll be a top choice. And
you do?
I think he might be, yeah.
No, we disagree there.
Okay. I think I know what your other two are going to be. Victor Espinoza, Triple Crown winning jockey from last year, is going to be one of the top favorites. And also, I think you probably think Ramon Dominguez is more of a shoe-in than Steve Asmussen.
I do.
So that's where I'm thinking the voting and the electorate is going to go.
And other than the 2 fillies and mares that you already mentioned, Rachel and Zenyatta, who I'm going to vote for, so I won't let that be any point of suspense. I'm not really sure who else I might. I could limit it to those 2. I could vote for more. I don't know. But as I said, handicapping the electorate, I do think Ramon's going to get in. I think the East Coast vibe of, and there's some West Coast people too, but I just think that he's going to have the support. And whether you think it's fair or not, the way in which his career ended typically boosts the candidacy of those. Without a doubt, if it's not this year, he will be in. As will Steve Asmussen, but I think Asmussen's going to be on ice for a year.
Yeah.
They got him on the ballot this time after, what have you. I think some will be scared away for that first time. It's the top 4 that get in regardless of vote totals, so it could be unanimous for Rachel and Zenyatta, and then 20%, 19%, 18%, and the 2019 get in. So it is tricky in that way that might help some, might hurt others. But to me, I think most of these will be in eventually. You and I were talking beforehand, though. We agree that I was surprised that English Channel made it ahead of Gio Ponte, who I think is a Hall of Fame horse. I do not think English Channel is.
Yeah, English Channel won the 2007 Breeders' Cup Turf on a very soggy turf course, kind of benefited from the Europeans not liking it. In the previous years, I thought he was kind of exposed against world-class competition in Breeders' Cups and other races. He kind of snuck into that Eclipse Award. I voted for him that year. I couldn't dismiss his Breeders' Cup victory, but overall, I don't think his career warrants a Hall of Fame induction, at least not right now, along with some of the others.
I don't even think it warranted a inclusion on the finalist. I mean, I look at what he did versus some of the 3-year-olds who are never going to be in contention, and I agree with that, like in a Fleet Alex who had a great 3-year-old year. I mean, he's not a Hall of Fame horse. He had a championship year. He won 2 classics, but I just see English Channel more in that vein. He didn't put it all together for a career that I see as Hall of Fame worthy. And there's a litany of horses we could go over who did it. Recency bias has me thinking Gio Ponte, though, who was right there with Zenyatta in that Breeders' Cup Classic, won multiple Grade 1 races, did it over the course of several years. And Wise Dan, who will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, Gio Ponte sort of passed the torch to him. Gio Ponte beat Wise Dan in the Shadwell Mile. Not saying Gio Ponte's better, but to me, he deserved a spot over English Channel.
I agree, and we want to honor the very best horses in racing history in the Hall of Fame. English Channel, I don't think even makes a top 10 as far as grass horses, or maybe even a top 20 if you want to go farther than that.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be top 10 this century.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And not to denigrate. I mean, obviously we'd love to own an English Channel, great bloodlines, et cetera, but in the scope of this discussion, we know who the top 2 are going to be. We'll debate sort of in the middle when we actually get our ballots. It'll be a fun discussion, but I just thought kind of interesting to start with, well, who do we know for sure is going to be at the bottom? I think it's going to be him.
Yeah, no question. And some of the others, I think Kona Gold has been on the ballot several times already. It's kind of tough for pure sprinters to get into the Hall of Fame. A horse like Groovy, who scintillated in my childhood, I don't think has ever been nominated yet. So obviously he didn't win a Breeders' Cup Sprint, but he was one of the fastest horses on record if you trust speed ratings from various entities.
He was quick.
He was very quick, and I think a horse like a Groovy probably belongs ahead of a Kona Gold. Just my personal opinion.
Well, we saw extra heat in recent brilliant 3-year-old filly sprinting and almost won the Breeders' Cup Sprint. So sprinters, I would say, are going to get more of their due, and I think it helps out on the filly side of things that now they have their own division, so it sort of pumps up what they're able to do and gives attention to that. But yeah, Kona Gold, I agree, it's just sort of a division that could get lost in the shuffle even more than turf horses. So he's on here again, but I agree with you. I think he's just up against it, given who else landed on this ballot.
Yeah, and a couple others on the human side, Craig Perrette, who had a wonderful career in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. He's going to continue to be lost in the shuffle as all these riders come along and get nominated for the first time. I'm seriously going to consider putting Perrette on my first Hall of Fame ballot. I think he deserves it. From what I saw early in my following racing, I thought he was a terrific rider. And David Whiteley, the son of Hall of Fame trainer Frank Whiteley, retired with a 33% win percentage rate, trained several champions in the late 70s. He'll probably end up being inducted probably by the Historical Review Committee at some point, but he's another I'm seriously going to consider putting on my ballot.
Craig's fate as well.
That might be Craig's fate as well, yes.
Yeah, but then I'm glad you mentioned that win percentage, because we talk about it a lot now with your Pletchers and Asmussens and the so-called super trainers, but it's definitely happened before. We think of maybe guys like King Leatherberry, who did it in a very concentrated circuit. Whiteley, though, definitely at the high end of things, and definitely merits a mention.
Absolutely, and I looked up his father's record, Frank Whiteley, and he retired with a 42% win percentage, even after going winless like his last couple of years where he started horses. So you can just imagine if you just took those 2 years out as an outlier, his win percentage would have been about 45 or whatever. So the Whiteley father-son team are just tremendous horsemen.
Well, between now, the time we actually vote, when they're announced in the induction, I'm sure we'll talk plenty about Rachel, Alexandra, and Zenyatta, but, are they both unanimous?
They should be. Zenyatta, acclaimed as probably the greatest mare of all time. Rachel, a truly historic 3-year-old filly campaign, one I don't think I'll ever see again in the U.S., beating older males like she did, winning the Preakness, beating the best colt of her generation in the Haskell by 6 lengths. You're just not going to see that from a 3-year-old filly again, I don't think.
No, and it takes more than just a filly. She had the connections that took that chance post Oaks. Songbird, for as great as she is and as dazzled as I am by her, you need that other piece to want to go for the ring, so to speak, and that's part of why what Rachel did will end up being so historic. And of course Zenyatta, the classic win, the 19 in a row, etc. If she's not the best ever in the U.S., she's clearly in the top 3.
No question.
Yeah, I agree. They should be unanimous. Whether they're not, we'll see. And we'll discuss more of our votes once the ballots come and share those on the process. But it's a great group.
It is a fantastic group, and it'll be a real privilege for me to cast my first ballot on this year.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week.